Just recently this week, Sony held their PlayStation State of Play for some of their upcoming major releases for 2024. And in those handful of game announcements was one of my most highly anticipated games of this year, Stellar Blade. I have been following this game since it was still called Project Eve in its infant stages, and that was 4 years ago, with some updates here and there giving us small trailers and bits of gameplay. But even with that, it never really felt like we knew anything about the game. In fact, other than knowing it was an action RPG, we didn't really know anything about the characters, the world, or even something as simple as who our main protagonist was. However, this State of Play gave us that deep dive we have been wanting for all those years. The first thing I want to go over is the major new details we got regarding its story. This news comes from PlayStation Blog, as it reads here: the story of Eve's journey. Stellar Blade follows the journey of Eve, a warrior who descends from an off-world colony to defeat Naytibas, humanity's enemy that suddenly emerged on Earth. The Naytibas appear to be attacking the human race at will of a higher entity composed of Alpha and an Elder, but nobody really knows about their origin. The protagonist Eve finds herself in a devastated world where she meets Adam, a survivor left on Earth, and Lily, a member of a previous airborne squad. Together, they join forces in a battle against the Naytibas. Along the way, Eve's party works with surviving citizens gathered in the last city, Xeon. And this is pretty much the story stuff I've been wanting to know about. And I'm sure we've all made this comparison by now, but it does give strong Nier Automata vibes, especially with the whole post-apocalyptic world and fighting alien-type enemies. And many will be quick to say, oh well, isn't this very generic, or hasn't this been done before? But you have to remember that just because certain aspects of a story have been done before doesn't mean they can't elevate how its story is being told in a way that makes it stand out compared to others. In Nier Automata's case, even though there are so many pieces of media that tell the same story of humanity against an alien threat, Nier does it in a way that makes you question the reason you're even fighting. That even in the face of this enemy, are we even the good guys? Or are we just as flawed as our enemy? And so I think it's important to realize that these types of stories can still be very interesting, so long as it holds originality and draws upon relatable human conflict. And Nier Automata is the perfect example of that. Now, they go into detail about the world of Stellar Blade. As with character action games, there aren't really a lot of focus on semi or an open world structure of the game. Usually, character action games are level based, focusing more on how well you do during each stage and not so much about exploring the world, finding secrets, or helping out NPCs. Of course, Stellar Blade has much to say on that topic. As it says here, the world of Stellar Blade. Xeon is connected to a semi-open world region called the Wasteland and the Great Desert, which harbor many secrets. You get to cross paths with many different people and go on adventures in these vast fields to fulfill Eve's goal while also helping the citizens of Xeon. One of these missions involves gathering hypercells, which are massive sources of energy sustaining Xeon. These cells lie dormant throughout the fields, and Eve retrieves these hypercells to turn Xeon back to its original glory. This leads her to meet more characters along the way. Throughout her adventures, you will pick up items like exospines or gears, as well as acquire SP and XP, which unlocks powerful skills. You can also acquire various cosmetics such as costumes, accessories, and hairstyles. Players will hear a wide variety of music while exploring Stellar Blade, from relaxing tunes at the camp to music that captures the poignancy of a ruined city. Almost all the songs have choruses and vocals which will immerse you into the world of Stellar Blade. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, in the fact that character action games don't usually focus on an open zone kind of structure, as these types of games try to focus on getting the player to fully engage with the level and how high of a combo they can achieve in each one. Not only that, but it does get hard to sustain enough interest in the action gameplay the longer the game goes on for. And usually RPGs go on for about 30 to 40 hours. The best example of this would be a game that released recently, and that game is Final Fantasy XVI. With Final Fantasy XVI, although it had a great battle system, and one that I absolutely love, it's no surprise that in the latter half of the game, the combat would end up feeling repetitive. And of course, there are a lot of other problems that can go into that, but a point that can be made here is that they are a lot better put in games that are, say, 15 to 20 hours long, rather than a large 40+ hour game. A better example for Stellar Blade to take inspiration from when faced with that problem problem would be to look at a game such as, again, Nier Automata, as not only is it also an action RPG, but it's only about 15 to 20 hours long to full completion. And to me, that's an appropriate length for a game going for action-style combat. The trailer even briefly goes over some of its RPG elements. As previously mentioned, you'll be going around helping survivors of the planet, and of course, side quests will follow that. There's also camps to rest at or stock up on supplies. Things like consumables, buffs, and skills can be acquired at these camps. Even Final Fantasy VII Remake has something similar to this where you could sit on a bench to recover health and MP, and even being able to shop at vending machines. It seems there'll also be lots of weapon variety in the game, ranging from your basic one-handed swords, heavy weapons, beam rifles, and just straight up automatic weapons. And actually, this may be one of the things that makes Stellar Blade stand out from other action games. It uses guns, but not only that, it places big emphasis on them in your progression. You have other action games like Devil May Cry where the combat would have Dante's pistols incorporated into the combos you could pull off. Games like Nier Automata let you use pod to shoot things and incorporate different skills to make it stronger. But that was pretty much the extent of that. For story purposes and maybe gameplay reasons as well, firearms aren't a big factor into progression. Matter of fact, many games, at least the ones I've played through, don't emphasize guns into its gameplay. How much it'll affect Eve's stats and progression through the game remains to be seen. But the sheer amount of weapon variety here from not only blades but guns as well is making me excited to see how much of a difference they will make to combat going forward. We also got new screenshots of the game, and would you be surprised to find out that it actually looks just as good, if not better than its previous trailers. It does help that Stellar Blade is going for a heavy stylized art style very similar to games like Final Fantasy. And I won't lie, as a big FF fan, I would love to see a Final Fantasy go straight futuristic like something you would see in this or Nier Automata. It almost gives me those same vibes those old Square Enix tech demos would showcase for their new game engines. Except now we're actually getting a game that graphically looks like one of those demos from back in the day. We also got a quick look at what the deluxe edition will contain. Of course, you have all the bonuses that will come with it. But listen, these outfits on Eve...
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Honestly though, Stellar Blade is looking like one of the best games of the year, and you could be sure that it could give both Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Persona 3 Reload a run for its money as RPG of the year, at least in my opinion. If Stellar Blade does in fact come out to great reception, I think it's safe to say we'll be seeing a lot more from developers Shift Up in the future, and you can be sure that I will be playing this as it releases. But whether Stellar Blade lives up to the hype will have to be seen come April 26, 2024.